Welcome. Here we are with TAC Tic Talk. I'm Dr. Joe Busch with my sister and publisher Jaclyn Touzard and Dr. Michael Perusich. Dr. Perusich is the welcome guest today, an expert with chiropractic practice management, business entrepreneurial efforts, as well as a chiropractor for over 20 years. Dr. Perusich, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your educational process and what that looked like?
Sure, and thanks for having me on today. I went to I did my undergrad at the University of Texas in Austin, so Hook 'em Horns, where my degree is actually kind of multifaceted, finance, marketing, and advertising, and I'll come back to advertising here in just a second. And then I actually have a minor in English and psychology. So when I got out of school, I worked in the investment banking world for several years, about 10 years, almost 11 years, in mergers and acquisitions and direct investments. And just long story short, kind of got burned out, was looking for a new business to get into. I was at my chiropractor's office one day, and he said, "You'd be a great chiropractor." I'm like, "What do you mean? I don't know anything about health. I'm a business guy." And he said, "No, serious, you should look into this." So I started looking into this, and I'm like, holy cow, this is a fantastic business to get into, provided I can get through school. So I bit the bullet and went to school, and I never looked back. It was a fantastic experience all the way through school. I was super involved. I was national chair of the student ACA, so I got to meet lots of people. I got to go to every campus and see how everybody learns about chiropractic, and the profession has just been an amazing experience to me over the years. So,
well, that's fantastic. So you were in the University of Texas. Now they have a great business program. You majored in finance there, and went into investment banking. I mean, that's completely unique to what most chiropractors enter
little
the
bit.
profession as.
Little bit. So it gives me a little different experience and some tools and things that a lot of doctors don't have.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So it gives me a little different perspective about the profession.
Wow. And then that puts you, at what age were you going to chiropractic school?
Let's see. I was 33 when I started.
Wow.
A year into school, I met the director of admissions. Ironically, I hadn't met her before. And anyway, she became my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So, my whole life is chiropractic bound.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So then you decided you were going to go into school. Now, where did you then matriculate to? I mean, you went through the requirements, I imagine, and then you decided you were looking for a school. So where did that take you?
So when I graduated I went to Cleveland. When I graduated from Cleveland, I practiced in the Kansas City area for a while, and then I sold that practice and moved to a really small town right in the middle of Missouri. It's actually the town my wife grew up in. And we were blessed with the opportunity to build a huge practice there in this little bitty town. Mm-hmm. We literally had patients that came from hundreds of miles away. I even had a patient from Italy that came once a year for 2 weeks and came every day while she was in town for 2 weeks every year.
Wow.
So we just had a ball doing this. And I had some great mentors along the way that was kind of the door that opened up the ability to get into consulting as well. Mm-hmm. So, it's been a lot of fun. And I sold that clinic several years ago, but I still own clinics. I'm just not practicing in them anymore.
So how long were you in practice then? It seems like it was pretty extended.
22 years.
Just a bit. Right? Yeah, that's quite a few spines. So you entered into the chiropractic profession from this business background at a very high level, it sounds like. And then you had the opportunity to get more into consulting after having gotten through your experience, which, I mean, that dimension and your background, I mean, should be an incredible advantage in that market, right? So how did you get into consulting? Was it people saw you and they were like, oh man, I want to do what you're doing? Or is it something that you had thought, well, there's an opportunity here too?
Okay, so really funny story. So in my last year in school, in chiropractic school, I joined a management company. I joined KATS Management, and my wife and I went to our first live seminar, and we're sitting in the audience, and I'm just completely enthralled because they're talking my language. They're talking business stuff. This is awesome. I'd been so immersed in chiropractic education that it was cool to kind of get my brain back to the business side. And anyway, we're listening to Dr. KATS speak, and I mean, I'm just leaning on every word. We're sitting on the end of the aisle. He gets done speaking. I nudge my wife, and I said, I'm going to go meet him. I'm going to go introduce myself. And she's trying to grab me like, no, leave him alone. So I go running up to the stage. I stick my hand out. Hi, Dr. KATS. I'm Michael Perusich. I'm happy to be here. And oh my gosh, someday I want to be on that stage speaking with you. I don't even know where that came from. He gets down on one knee and is talking to me, and we just became great friends instantly. And he was just such a great mentor while I was getting through school and getting my practice set up. And a few months after I graduated, he contacted my wife and asked her to come to work for him. And just in that process, I got to start speaking and coaching. And so I've been doing this for a while.
Wow.
That sounds remarkable, especially because that was when, KATS Management was really emerging that entire time that you were learning from them, right? So was that, now when did KATS Management start?
KATS Management started in 1984.
Okay, so they were well into it, right?
Well into it, yeah. So the company was about 15, 16 years old. Yeah. And then my wife and I were with them for many years, and it went through a little bit of an ownership change. And my wife and I went out and started our own consulting business while we had the clinic. We were kind of a little tired of the travel, and our daughter was very young at that point. And so we just kind of wanted to be off the road and just have a nice small consulting business, which kind of exploded on us in a good way. And then a few years later, Dr. KATS called me up and he said, hey, I'm kind of wanting to get back into coaching a little bit. I've got a couple of docs that I've been working with. And we said, why don't we just join up forces? And then a few years later, he decided he wanted to kind of step back a little bit. And I took over and eventually bought him out. And so KATS Consultants today is still around and been revived and refreshed a little bit.
Is now Dr. Perusich.
Right. Yeah. And
but that's harder to say. That's just harder to say. So KATS Consulting sounds right.
Well, if you try the phonetic spelling of the name, it is difficult. But that's why we say Dr. Michael, right? So
Dr. Michael, that's right.
So that is a fantastic story. So, here you are, you're continuing forward with KATS Consulting, right? Now you're pretty soft-spoken. Most of the guys who get into consulting throughout chiropractic tend to be a little bit more like flamboyant, I want to almost say. They like to be bigger than life, but
Bill Showman.
Understated, right? Living in a small city, you're like Warren Buffett or something over here. Living in a small city in Kansas City, outside in Missouri. So how have you found your role change over the years with KATS Consulting? Is it like a family? How would you describe the apparatus?
Yeah, we are a small family-run business. My CFO, she and I have worked together for 23 years. Her kids and my daughter all grew up together. Her daughter and my daughter now work for the company. They are our marketing team. We have 3 other coaches in with us that all have business experience prior to becoming chiropractors. So we really bring this real business edge to our consulting. So it's less about us. So if you say I'm a little quieter or a little more reserved, maybe sometimes not on stage, but we are that way on purpose because it's not about us. It's about the doctor that we're working for and their practice and their success. So we take a real business approach, not a systems-based approach. So if you call me up and say, what's your system? What kind of things am I going to take from you? We don't send you a box with your consulting, your management system to you. We get into your practice and we pick it apart and we figure out how it ticks. We figure out what your mission and your vision is, because if it's not about your vision, It'll never work long term. So we build a system around each doctor based on what kind of practice they have, what kind of direction they want, what kind of profitability they want, where are they at in practice. There's a whole bunch of things that play into it. So it's just a very different, it's an investment banking approach, really is what it is.
Wow. Well, that sounds amazing. I want to jump in and ask, it sounds so tailored. It sounds like it could not possibly be affordable. That's like somebody coming in and telling you, here's what the solution. How do you guys package that? I'm imagining each one then has even then a tailored fee structure, I would imagine, if it's such a tailored business model.
We actually have refined our pricing structure, and it's the same for everybody. There's two different membership levels that people can choose. They can choose the one-on-one consulting, where we're all going to roll up our sleeves and get in and dig around and maybe even rebuild a practice from the inside out. Then there's the self-paced program. So it's more like a subscription program. We have this humongous, I don't know, there's like 800 videos in there, training videos that they have access to, all kinds of resources, tools, and things you need to build your practice, whether that's new patient paperwork or HR supports for hiring and unfortunately terminating people and those kind of things, how to set up bonus structure. I mean, there's so much in there, so many different tools in there. So doctors can really come in a couple of different ways. And honestly, we're very, very affordable. When you compare us to what some of the other companies around are doing, we are incredibly affordable. And I think the piece de resistance, if you will, is the fact that we don't have a contract. It's just a month to month. If you love us, great, you'll hang around. If you don't, if we're not a good fit for you, we try to figure that out up front before we start working with you. But if we wind up not being a good fit, we wish you the best of luck. It's pretty much that simple. We don't tie anybody down. Here's the cool thing. Our retention rate on our membership is over 96%. So people never leave. And it's because we are such a family. We get to know every one of our doctor members intimately. We work directly with their staff. We're one of the few companies that actually has coaching for the CAs as well.
Wow.
And we love that. We love that. So we know how important the CAs are to an efficiently run chiropractic clinic, the unsung hero, right? And when the chiropractor's trying to do it, I mean, there's so many balls in the air. You got to have that team well trained. So now, Dr. Michael, you're also an author. Okay. So you've got a book coming out. We've got your great articles every so often in the in brief section. Most recently in March, we had the effective risk management strategies for the chiropractic practice. Right here, I've got the March issue, which you can find online at digital.theamericanchiropractor.com. And you also have a book coming out on business, right? So it was the Adjusted Insights. And so that's a unique vision of the business of chiropractic from your brain, the halls of Austin, Texas Business School, investment banking, KATS Consulting. So, and all your experience. So tell us a little bit about that. About your book that you're releasing.
Yeah, what it is it's a collection of the blog articles that I write every week. It's just kind of my favorite ones, where I just help doctors think a little bit differently about our profession. We've all gone in the same direction for so long, kind of like, and I don't like this term, I don't mean to call us this derogatorily, but we've kind of been like lemmings. And we'll follow along until we practically jump off the cliff together. And I like to look at business in a different way. So we're incredibly innovative in our thought processes. And so you get to kind of see a little bit of my mindset about how to think differently about practice. So it's just going to be a fun book. And we plan on putting a new volume out every year.
Oh, wow. So from your history, how's the future for chiropractors looking? There's always either doomsday or, a heyday. What do you think?
Not to be trite, I think there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. The pandemic, I think, really helped us kind of move up the totem pole of healthcare a little bit. And people really understand the value and benefit that we provide people. In a tightening economy, people will be flocking to the right chiropractic clinics in the future. When I say right, it's the ones who get the messaging correct. It's the ones who focus on the right things in practice. And I give you a little bit of an insight into that. If we focus on new patient acquisition too much, when you think about today's consumer and today's consumer buying habits, that's a huge turnoff for people. So when we hit on the right message that goes away from that and messages of trust and building of relationships, you can build a humongous practice right now and have huge profitability and do some amazing things for people.
That's amazing to hear from an investment banker standpoint. Less on the patient acquisition, more on the relationships.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot that plays into that. So we study behind the scenes. We study not only chiropractic business, but we study a lot about just healthcare in general and what's happening in healthcare, what's happening with the regulations. But we really dig in on what's happening with the consumer. What's the consumer mentality right now? And it's really fascinating when you bring some of these pieces from around the business world into chiropractic and really start thinking like a true entrepreneur. And how do I build a business that is not so focused on always having to bring patients in the front door, but keeping patients from leaving out of the back door? You can build a huge practice really fast.
Well, and that's this. I mean, the world we live in, right, has undergone so much. Just deterioration over the last 20 to 40 years. Kids with ADD, ADHD, all these brain problems, the heart problems associated with the recent COVID pandemic, and maybe even the interventions that were recommended to us. So, right. I mean, definitely, the whole world is traumatized right now. We're entering election year. Healthcare. I was watching a Kennedy interview this morning. I'm not endorsing any candidate, but he's like, when his dad was president or whatever, 6% of the GDP, and today it's 20%. He might have even said 4%. Yeah. I mean, it's just this expense on healthcare is completely hemorrhaging. And chiropractors are here, and we're having, in some cases, difficulty getting our the fair payment for our services. So it's just a crazy environment we live in. And so I think it must be fascinating for you from a business standpoint to be really able to influence these things on a level where you're, engaging with patients and outcomes, and also helping chiropractors survive and sustain themselves.
Yeah, it's a very fun time for us because we really get to use our innovations right now a lot, and helping doctors see a different way to practice, which is getting, how do I put it? We're helping doctors get out of the old mindset and into a new mindset that really helps their practice take hold in their community and their marketplace. So it's fun.
So what kind of practitioner would be your sweet spot? Like if you got the functional medicine guy, or the, is there somewhere that you're like, well, this is probably the best fit for that? Or will you work with functional medicine chiropractors, or even, say someone who's doing muscle testing and energy testing, or is there an easy interface for you in all types of practice models?
Not really, not from a technique standpoint or a practice style standpoint, because we're teaching business principles and helping with the business principles of the practice and not trying to create systems, so to speak. It doesn't really matter what kind of practice. I mean, when I think about the membership we have doctors all over the place doing all kinds of different things, whether it's muscle testing or acupuncture or activator, GONSA, that part doesn't matter. What matters, I think, most is the mindset. And are you coachable? Are you willing to make some changes? Are you willing to listen to some new ideas? Are you willing to look at your staff and your team around you and help them develop and grow? Some doctors are against that. That's fine. You can practice how you want. But if we're talking about where we help the most, these are the kind of things that people really need to be open to make our kind of consulting really fit. So when we talk about consulting, so to me, consulting, I think, has a little bit different terminology from a business world standpoint than it does so much in the chiropractic world. Consulting for me is coming into your business and looking at all aspects of it. And what are we doing from a business standpoint? And how can we improve those processes or upgrade those processes? And it might be little things like changing your communication strategy. One of the big things I see doctors do wrong is their pricing strategy. They don't know how to price. And what do we do when you don't know how to price? You start watching what the other guy's doing down the street, and we're on this big race to the bottom to see who can have the lowest price in our community. And that's the wrong way to think. We really should be thinking the other direction. So when you ask about the sweet spot, that's really who the sweet spot is. It's those that are willing to listen, open themselves up to some coaching, become coachable, and willing to change their mindset because they want to have a profitable practice.
Right. So what you're describing is like the fear-based response to an unknown, right? Because the chiropractor doesn't know what you know with regards to the pricing, and especially your experience over across the United States and the world, I imagine. And right. So that's where the experience comes in, right? So very interesting. Now, so you mentioned that your background was in business. Now, your daughter also, is my understanding, she works with you. I think you mentioned that she helps you with the marketing as well. Can you tell her a little bit about that family role that you mentioned is so important to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So my daughter and Marissa's daughter, Marissa's our CFO, and she's the one that does all of our CA coaching and so forth. They both work for us. They both just recently graduated. So they grew up as best friends, first off. Which is kind of fun. And we are all actually physically related in a long distance opposite ends of the family tree, but we actually have some direct relations between us all. So which is kind of cool. But yeah, both the girls just graduated from college. My daughter went to UCF. Marissa's daughter went to MSU, and both with marketing degrees. And now they're both working for us, and it's fantastic. So it's very exciting. So my daughter and I are very, very close. Marissa's husband and I used to coach the girls in soccer. We traveled all over the place with them until they got into high school and played high school ball. But my daughter and I are super close. My wife passed away 8.5 years ago, and which my daughter and I were already close, but that just created this vacuum around the two of us. We just have a ball working together.
Wow, I can't even imagine.
No, that's the best. Dr. Michael, that's the best way to do it. I mean, Jaclyn's my sister. I'm her brother. It's we work with other siblings, right? I have a chiropractor brother in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We got Rick Busch and of course JR. And we work with our parents.
Yeah, we worked with our parents this year. We did our father passed last year. And instead of, whenever people were talking about, we're like, it was a celebration. I mean, he did it just the right way. We lived every day. Getting to work with your family members is one of the most fulfilling things because, the sad part is we're all headed to the same destination sooner or later. Right. But God willing, when the time comes, you think, what a great ride. And I wouldn't change a thing,
Yep.
So.
Yep. I just want to slide across home plate at the end.
Exactly. And say, what a ride.
Yep. Exactly.
Let me see here. Well, we're looking forward to hearing more. Let me see, Joe. I don't know if we went over all of the different things that you guys wanted to touch on. So I wanted to check too, Dr. Michael, if you had any other things you wanted us to bring up. One of the things, of course, your column in the American Chiropractor magazine. Everybody wants to know, what are you going to write about next?
Ooh, what am I going to write about next? I'm not going to expose that one.
I'm not going to throw the cards, Jaclyn.
Not just yet. It's always a surprise. So
what about upcoming seminars that you're going to be?
Yeah.
So we have we do 4 virtual seminars a year. And it's funny, we started doing virtual seminars like 5 years before the pandemic. So when the pandemic came around, everybody's scrambling, how do we use Zoom and all this? And we already kind of had that process perfected. And our doctors love it because they don't have to travel. They don't have to pay staff overtime. They don't have to get hotel rooms for staff. And it's just a great thing to do. And then we couple a strategic planning session right afterwards. So they really dig into the information from the seminar right now.
Right.
Instead of learning it on Saturday and forgetting it by Monday, we're going to dig in right now and create those action steps around it to create implementation into the practice. And then we do a couple of live events every year. We just had our doctor's retreat in Florida, and then we have another doctor's retreat at I think it's the beginning of October in Kansas City. So those are the two locations that we are always at. Make it simple.
And are those member only kind of things? They have to be on the team?
No.
No?
Non-members can come too.
Okay. We need to have those dates then and locations in advance.
October 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I think is, I know that's Kansas City.
All right.
And then now the virtual seminars, are those recorded or are those, you have to be live attendance?
They are done live, but they are recorded. So
they can access them.
Yep. So as a non-member, you can pay a very small fee. I'd be honest, I can't remember what it is. Marissa handles all that, but I mean, it's ridiculously cheap, and you have 30 days to watch it. And, we recommend just finding some time with your team and watch it together, because they're designed around a couple of things. They're designed to be team oriented. So there's information for everybody because we want to get you thinking. And they're also designed around adult learning theory. So they're very short micro classes with questions to think about at the end to begin really developing those action steps. And it really drives the information home.
That's amazing. Wow.
That is fantastic. No, so I want to get into one of those, definitely, at least the virtual one. I'm not sure if I can make it to Kansas City. It's kind of hard to get up there sometimes, but I'll be looking for that. So, well, very good. I think we've covered all of our bases for today. Jaclyn, what do you think? Is there anything else that you want to
That's all I can think of off the top of my head, but I do want to make sure that we're looking forward to seeing you more in the future. And on the live events, so the only way anybody's ever going to see you between now and the next time we interview on podcast is through your own virtual things. Do you ever go face to face on any live, other than your own doctor retreats? We don't see you guys often at any of the other events throughout the year.
We are at the Florida Chiropractic Association big national event every other year. We don't go every year. We're usually at Cleveland ACE, which is their homecoming program. And I'm often speaking at some of those, and I speak at other state association events. And I think I'm speaking at the ACA Engage next January, February. So I am around speaking fairly regularly.
All right.
I also do some motivational speaking and things that are not chiropractic based.
That's what I saw in your information, and it was about as a certified John Maxwell coach and speaker. I didn't know who that is, so I wanted to find out. Tell us a little bit more about that, because that's just an extra bonus.
Yeah, so I joined that program many, many years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, and it's a fantastic program. So John Maxwell is a faith-based motivational speaker, leadership trainer, and it has just really helped me sharpen my leadership skills, my speaking skills, my coaching skills. Plus, it's just kind of fun to go hang out with John Maxwell at a Maxwell event. They're huge, but they're always a lot of fun. So it brings that extra dynamic, a lot of which we use in our mastermind program. So we help doctors get off the mouse wheel of chiropractic a couple of times a month. And we have this great mastermind session where we just kind of work on our own brains and our own energy for a little bit. So we bring a lot of that into that program and into our podcasts. Like
the Dr. Heal Thyself type stuff, you mean?
Some of it is. Some of it's just, good old motivation. We're doing a study right now on how to find your why and your purpose, which has been absolutely amazing. So,
well, everything you've said here is, it's right on the money. So how does a guy who's interested in learning more, taking the next step, getting involved with KATS Consulting, what do they need to do?
Pretty simple. Go to katsconsultants.com, and it's KATS with a K, KATS, katsconsultants.com. Check us out. You can catch our podcast. That's how a lot of people kind of first connect with us. You can check out our podcast. It's called the KC, the letters KC Chiropulse, keeping your pulse on chiropractic. So, yeah, check us out. We're on all the podcast channels.
And all that. Spotify.
Yeah, we're on everything. So, but we've got all kinds of free downloads and things on the website. So yeah, go check us out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for continuing to write. We look forward to seeing you coming.
That's where my English degree comes in.
I know you're like a jack of all trades. I love it. And a master of them all, it seems. So,
well, I don't know about that. I'm still working on it. Mastery is a lifetime charge.
For sure. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Appreciate you guys too.
Thanks, Dr.
Appreciate it. Have a great one.